Let me ask you this. What happens to a child when the person who gave them life also gave them pain? What happens when your first memories are shadows and the truth feels like fiction because the lies were so thick, so loud, and so constant? This isn't just about exposing a man who lived in chaos. It's about what it took to survive him. It's about healing from the things we don't talk about, the things that was twisted, the things that twisted our sense of safety, the things we were told to forget. So if you've ever had to unlearn your own bloodline to protect your peace, welcome. You're not alone.
Omar, what do you know about? I know you did a little bit of research on our biological father.
So I think academically, what I do know, what I've heard from everybody is that his mother, our grandmother had put him through college. So he did get his degree in psychology. What I do know is that upon speaking with him throughout the years, he battled schizophrenia and he would go into crisis. So that means like he wouldn't like take his medicine or anything like that. So then he would admit himself into like a behavior unit. He did have a issue like lying because he is featured in a lot of articles, newspaper articles around where we're from, that he was blind and he got hit by a car. I mean, if you just Google his name, you could find a plethora of articles on him faking to be something that he's not.
I have a great story about that when you're done.
But I do believe he was educated. I do believe he did travel because that seemed to be his thing. But it just wasn't enough. You know, I don't think he was ever okay with himself. Oh, I remember having a conversation with him and he would say that everybody would like make fun of him because he was like a fat kid growing up. So he's like made fun of a lot. And then he also told me that like hearing voices was a normal thing. He thought everybody heard voices when he was a kid. And it wasn't until he was like in his adolescence that he realized that he had a conversation with one of his siblings or somebody, and he had mentioned about a voice that he heard, and they told him that that wasn't normal. So that's a couple of conversations. What I know from the nurse having conversations with her when he was like on his deathbed was that he had abused, what do you call it? Is it oxycodone? Hydrocodone? One of the codones.
An opioid.
Yeah, he abused that. Yeah, he had weight problems and he had women problems.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I know consistently, that everybody who knew him had all said these two things. He was one of the smartest men they had ever met, but he was also one of the dumbest. And like even his cousin was telling me about how because she went to school with him, and she said, your dad was so smart, but he had no common sense. He never thought about anything, and I think about the different stories of how he could, and I don't know if this is part of schizophrenia or not, but he would create lies and almost live in them. And so like example, like a lot of his Alaska stories, he absolutely lived up there. Because I lived in the same area. So I knew certain things that you would know if you lived up there. But 99% of it was false. Like example, he said he got adopted by the Tlingit tribe. It's like, there's no way. They would have never adopted you. Alvin and I went to go see him once. And it was when he was pretending to be blind. And he told us that he went to a grocery store and he got hit because obviously what he was doing was jumping in front of cars. And he told us that he had it on video. And he so badly wanted us to believe him because he was like, you're my kids. I want you to believe what I say. So I'm going to give you this DVD. It is from the security cameras of this store. And he said, because I so badly want you to believe me. He said, it has the whole cases on it. And I need this back because it's my whole case, but I have to have you believe me. So we said, okay, sure. And we get back home and we pop that DVD in, and it is a blank, never written DVD. Yeah. And for me, that point really showed me how crazy he was, because he truly believed it. He really believed what he was telling us. I don't know how, but I mean, most people would not try to give you proof unless they believed what they were giving you.
Right.
But then you have him on the other side, is he was really good at fooling people and manipulating people. And a few years ago, before I came and saw you guys and before I got sick, I was working on the Matanuska, which is a ship, and it was during winter, so we had, during winter, a lot of ships are in the shipyard, so you work with people you normally don't work with. And I had a guy come up, an old engineer, came up and he says, "Hey, your last name's Robinson, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He asked me, he says, "Do you know someone named Calvin Robinson?" And keep in mind, this is middle of nowhere, Alaska, and out on the ocean. And someone has asked me if I know this person. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my dad's name." And he said, "Well, he would have lived here around in the early 90s. He gave me a time frame. I said, "Yeah, that's exactly when my dad lived here." And then I said, "He even lived in Sitka." And he said, "Yeah, that's exactly where he would have been. He would have been in Sitka." And I asked him, and I said, "Well, why are you looking for him?" And he sat there and thought, and he says, "I don't remember." But he told me kind of his story behind it, and he said that probably, it probably would have been 30 some years ago, almost 40 years ago, his parents had met him in California, and he was backpacking, and his parents were the ones who told him that he needed to find him when he went to Alaska. And he said it had been so many years that he didn't remember the reason why, but it had always stuck with him that this guy had made enough of an impression on his parents to, tell him to go find him when he was up there. And he said when he saw my name on the crew list, he just was going to take a chance, and because he didn't meet many people with that last name, and he's like, "Well, I just want to take a chance and see maybe if he did know him." And it was too many dots connecting for it not to be exactly, who he was looking for. So, I mean, it's just I run into weird stuff like that with him.
You want to know what's so crazy about, I think, so I never met our father, but I definitely researched him. And he tried fighting for us in 2003.
And pretty sure you guys were adults by then. My assumption why he might have been trying to do that is, do you guys know about some of the stuff, the places he used to work at, the different things he used to do?
Mm-mm.
So he really liked to work with kids, which should really make you cringe. One of our cousins told me that he used to be a probation officer for juvenile hall. Obviously he met your guys' mother as a counselor at a place for kids. He used to play a gorilla on a kids' TV show.
What?
Yeah, and so our cousin told me that, and this is the reason why I believe that it was actually true, is because he used to be able to get tickets to the Floppy show, which was on the same network, which was super popular uh, in Iowa at that time, and so the only way he could consistently get tickets if he was actually connected there. But I found the TV show, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was called. And then he did a lot of things to try to work with children. And my only assumption is why he would want those things off of his record is so he
Right.
can continue to do that. That's the only thing I could guess why he would want that.
Were there ever any moments you feared him or feared becoming like him?
So I never feared him, but whenever we would go see him after I learned about everything, I was disgusted by him. Like, I didn't want him to touch me. And I remember whenever we take a picture with him, he'd always ask me what was wrong. And I would just tell him, I don't like taking pictures, which is true, but it's just like, I don't want you touching me. You know, it just was such a disgust. But the other thing that would bother me, when you watch movies, you read things about, children becoming like their parents. And you always hear about how people try everything they possibly can to not be like their parents, and they end up being like them. And I remember as a kid hearing that always freaked me out. Because like, no, I don't want to be anything like him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as you get older, you just learn to be you, and that's not something you really have to worry about. But yeah, I never really truly feared him. It was just mostly like, just this, like, I don't really want to be around you.
I remember I looked for him on AOL and his name was Rock Robinson. And I would chat with him and then he gave me his phone number and I called him. I was like, is it true that you did those things to us? And he hung up in my face. What do you wish that people would understand about kids like us who have had a biological father like him?
So I was really thinking on that question today. And I think the main thing, like if I were to put just one bullet point, is that just because you share DNA with a person doesn't mean you're anything like them.
Right.
That's a bullet point that if I could pick anything. And the other thing that I was thinking of on that question is, have you ever heard the saying, blood is thicker than water?
Right.
So all three of us know that's not true.
Right.
Our life examples say that's not true. But that's not actually what the saying is. It's supposed to be the blood of a covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And what that means is that just because somebody shares DNA with you doesn't make them family.
Right.
What makes someone truly family is the people you experience life with, the people you battle with, the people you struggle with. Those are the people that become, more than a brother, more than a sister, more than a father, more than a mother, however you want to put it. And so when I think how I want people to see that is, don't really look at him as my father per se, as, growing up and teaching me or anything, because I had someone who I called dad and it wasn't him. But I also wish what people would see out of it is that, you occasionally do get good things out of terrible things. When they see like a father like us, because what most people look at are the negatives, the terrible things that happen to us. And what nobody looks at is the positive things. And I don't know if you guys realize this. Each one of us would have never been born if it wasn't for him being messed up.
Now, Isaac moved from Sioux Falls when you were 18 and you went to go live with him?
Well, it was eye-opening, I'll tell you that much. It helped me understand where my panic attacks and stuff came from. Because, like, he would wake up in the middle of the night having a panic attack. The one thing I learned, and this is just my experience with him, Brandon, I don't know about yours. So, with Calvin, when I stayed there for a bit, one of the things that I realized right off the bat was that I don't think I would have had any of the discipline at all that we had as children. Let me tell you something. He loved women. and women loved him. And I was shocked at the amount of different women that were knocking at the door and coming in and out of that place. Like,
Calvin ever present with you? Did you ever feel like you had a bonding moment with him, either you guys? Brandon or Isaac?
The one time I did was when I went back to the bus station after Grandma dropped me off at the bus station, because that's where we planned for Calvin to come pick me up. And we never talked about what he would look like. We didn't even bring that up, you know? And you know how, downtown Des Moines is, there's black folk everywhere. Somehow I knew that was Calvin. I knew that was my birth dad. And I hadn't seen him, because I hadn't seen pictures of him or anything. I hadn't seen him since I was a little kid. So that was kind of crazy. And then as we sat in the car and we talked, he started crying. And he just apologized. He apologized for failing me. He apologized for failing you girls, the twins. He said the twins. He was crying and he was like, I couldn't do it. It was like my anxiety, my mind, he said, I just couldn't do it, but I tried. I really tried, but I failed you guys. I was like, wow. He was really honest about how he just really had a hard time battling his mind and trying to take care of us.
Were you ever afraid that you would end up like him, or?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Explain that.
Yes. After I saw the way he lived, and I realized that I realized I would have been a whole different person. I don't think I would have been a good person. I'm not saying I'm perfect now. Lord, everyone knows I'm not. But I don't, and I'm not trying to be a dick, Brandon, towards, Calvin. I know you probably had a better relationship, but I don't think I would have had I don't think I would have had the same discipline. I don't think I would have had the same education. I don't think I would have the same outlook on life. And when I saw, like, he'd wake up in the middle of the night, almost every night, he woke up panicking. And I was like, I'm going to end up like this guy. And he would also tell me and show me these videos that were clearly lies. He would lie about everything. He'd lie about his accomplishments, and he showed me these trophies that me, who have actually been in martial arts and, actually gone and been on the mat and competed, I know what competing is like. I knew that those were fake, but I didn't want to call them out. And I was like, I do not want to be an old man sitting in this small apartment, smashing white girls and thinking about the old days that didn't exist. Oh no, he had me rolling when he got buried with that samurai sword, that dollar store. Oh my God.
I'm glad we're talking about that, because I wanted to get into the funeral.
That was one of the dopest funerals I had ever been to. I've never seen karaoke done at a funeral. It was hilarious.
Was it?
I saved it, because every once in a while I read it just to remind myself, you could be this delusional. Talking about saving babies. Yeah, like you can, and remember, you could lose it. Like talking about saving babies from bears and stuff. I was like, this is amazing.
You're lying. That's true.
I'm not
No, he's willing to.
No.
He was willing to tell anybody that.
He's not lying about that. They even put it in his obituary.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Reddit talking about swimming with the whales, being on broadcast television and stuff. When really it was just public. Remember when I did the radio and it was public and anyone could do it? It was like that, Chantel Olmore. It wasn't anything. It was just public access. You walk up in there and you get your 15 minutes.
Some of our we'll call him Calvin. Some of Calvin's baby mothers have disabilities. Like Rebecca wasn't the first person that was a mental
that he preyed on.
Yeah. Like
he clearly had a type. I noticed he clearly had a type.
And that was?
Well, that was bigger white girls that seemed like they didn't know any better.
Wow.
Just the truth. Should I lie more right now? Should I not be truthful? Let me know.
No, it's funny. So, which I guess is weird because he obviously liked white women, and which is funny because one of his uncles told me, he's like, yeah, he really loved white women, but it's like my mom, for example. My mom's a skinny white woman, but like what he did is he preyed on people who were weak.
Ooh.
And my mom will fully admit it, is at that time when she met him, because he was living below my aunt, and that's how my mom met him. And so she had just gotten divorced, and so she had 3 kids with a brand new baby. And our dad was coming in to rescue her, and he would tell her all these lies, like how he was going to take care of her and she wouldn't have to worry about anything. And my mother was so vulnerable at that time that if a man comes and is intelligent enough, and I think he was intelligent enough to back up or sound like what he was saying was true, it's easy to fool people. And my mom said she was duped, and now she can look back at it and see, like, she says, like, I cannot believe that I fell for it. But she was vulnerable, and that's the kind of women he went for, was vulnerable women.
Yeah.
I'd like to...
I was vulnerable.
I'd like to, let it be known that all of our mothers are white. Every single one of us, correct?
Praise be to a white woman.
What?
I said, praise be to the white woman. God's gift to man.
God gift to man. Well, yeah, apparently he had a Filipino, but he couldn't.
That's a lie. I don't believe that for a second.
I'm glad I'm not the only one he told that to then.
Okay, so Isaac, I wanna ask you this question. When you left, did you miss him?
No, absolutely not. I understand he was being honest. He gave me, I mean, it was massive, an entire thing of just stuff that he had kept about our adoption and stuff.
I saw in our papers that he was urinating on us. They found... You can't say no, he didn't, Isaac.
Well, true, you're right, I can't. But I would say, why don't let's get those adoption papers. Let's get, because I used to have all of it. I sat and read the arguments that in court that Calvin and Linda would have. Linda would literally say he did all kinds of things. If there was anything wrong with us at all during a visitation, Linda would call them and tell them immediately. She was trying everything she could to get us from Calvin.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
Oh, she was, and that's what I was trying to say. What you're reading are a lot of accusations made by Linda.
Oh, okay.
Don't see. You will see in the papers.
You know what, Brandon and Isaac, I can't say he did anything to me because I don't remember anything. I do specifically remember him telling us when we would go visit Brandon and Kelvin was we couldn't take our toys with us. I remember that disappointment. And I remember when I was in the hospital for like my asthma, I remember he was there with me, and I don't like life back then is like closing your eyes and opening them. It's very much blackout, but I can't say if he did or didn't. They just said that they found a bunch of evidence that he did. And then, I mean, it can't be too far-fetched because he's all in the news violating children and people. And
yeah,
and that's one unfortunate thing.
Yeah, and I can actually, I can guarantee from my side, like I said, nothing happened to me, but I know siblings he absolutely 100% for sure did stuff to.
wow.
So, and
that's, I'll be honest, and that is another reason why I really didn't mourn his death, because in my heart, I knew that this dude was a pedo.
Mm-hmm. Bro.
And I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't feel bad for this samurai sword using pedo.
He asked me the last time I saw him, he asked me to stay and have dinner with him. My last words ever to him was like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to eat with you.
Oh my God.
And it was like, that is literally my last words my last conversation with my birth father is, no, I don't want to eat with you. Like, I'm good. And
I remember, sorry to interrupt you. I got to get this out. I remember when our sister, not Elnora, but the other one, had this bright idea of us sending pictures of our children.
Oh no.
And us to be a part of a slideshow. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Hell no. I refuse to indulge on, like Isaac said, the delusion, making it seem like we were, and honestly, when you guys talk about how much he lied, well, that would have catered to probably millions of lies he told other people.
Most awkward part was when his ex-wife wanted me to come up and talk first because I was the firstborn. But in my head, I was like, I'm not the firstborn. He got a whole nother woman with his first ex-wife. Like, they're not here. Yeah. Like, I'm not the firstborn, but, and so I gave the most neutral, generic talk I could. Brendan, were you there for it?
No, and I'll tell you why when you're done.
Yes, he was my birth father, he existed, he existed, which allowed me to exist, and because of that, thank you. And I just sat down.
Brandon, you bring such a wise perspective, and you always have since the first day I met you. You've always kept in touch. You're intentional about staying in the present and making, better memories, and you care. You didn't have to care about us. You didn't have to care about anybody but yourself, but we all just display everything that he's not. And thank God that shit is dead and in the ground.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes down to it at the end of the day, is whenever something bad happens to us, we have two choices. We can either be a victim or a victor. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a victim. And to be a victim has to allow that person to have power over you. It's like, you don't have any power over me. I'm my own man. I will do whatever I want to do. And my life is not going to be affected by the things he did. And that's why it doesn't affect me whatsoever. The thing where it does affect me, the thing where it bothers me nonstop when I think about it, is I have siblings I don't know. And there are siblings, like our younger siblings, I struggle. Like, for you guys, it's not a big deal for me to talk to you at all. the younger ones that were forced to live with him for a extended period of time, I struggle with talking to them.
Yeah, I struggle too.
And it's like, I don't know how to, because I think now they're finally getting around to be like, oh, our dad really was messed up, but he had manipulated them so bad. He had did so many horrible things, and it was almost like an idolization, and I couldn't be around it. And I even struggle to this day. So it's like, I'm like, with you guys, it's all good. Because I think all of us being older adults, like we're past this stuff. But with them, it's like, I don't even know, like one of them messaged me and I never messaged him back. And he asked my mom, why I didn't message him back. And my mom asked me why. And I said, because I don't know what to say. I honestly do not know how to deal with it. And even with one of our younger sisters, my mom asked me, like, she got mad at me and like really mad at me. She said, why are you avoiding your younger sister? Why don't you want to talk to her? And I said, because I don't know how to.
When I look at the judicial paperwork, right, and I look at the dockets, there's a couple of docket numbers on us, right? And then I look at the people who signed it. I look at the people who's investigated. I look at the people the doctors that evaluated us, the counselors, the foster parents. You can't tell me, you just can't convince me that all 2,700 of them, it's not 2,700, but you know what I mean? That they all know each other and they all, you know what I mean? There's some group
Conspiracy.
of conspiracy theory. So what makes it hard for me to talk to them is it's like they want to convince me that he was a great guy and it was all lies. And I'm just thinking in my mind, like, you just don't get taken away from your family from the sports of it. And then you don't, and then
From
you
a
don't,
great
your own
guy.
dad. Yeah. Why is the great guy putting himself in a situation where he doesn't have literally 7 or 8 of his kids? They're all in the system. So for me, they don't even reserve a perspective for us three and the other ones, the older ones, to just talk about and live out. I think that's what's hard for me. It's like, okay, you had that. You've been manipulated or whatever you have, but reserve some respect for what we've been through, because we're not lying.